Hey everyone. So, welcome to 2019. This year I'm going to be making a lot of short videos. Maybe I'll make one every day, we'll see. Today I'm going to start it off easy, talking about why I watch The Big Lebowski on New Year's Day every year. Now, I started doing this quite a number of years ago, just because it seemed like a fun thing to do. I had always liked the film. I saw it when it came out, and a number of years later, a friend turned me on to the concept of watching The Big Lebowski as many times as possible, and which I was not aware of at the time. I was not aware that Lebowski Fest had become a thing, and that I knew it was a cult classic, but I don't think I understood that it was this deep vein of entertainment that I had not yet gone into, and that it would hold up to repeated viewings. And so after that, I had seen it a number of times, and it seemed to be one of these things that just got better and better. And I'm certainly not the first person to have made this observation, not by a long shot. I'm not here to tell you it's a good film. You've probably heard about it. Starting to watch it on New Year's Day, I just sort of made the joke that it really sets the tone for the year. And I stuck with that, and I've done it alone, and I've done it with friends, and I think there was once a party, and when we did it in Minneapolis, where it was come in your bathrobe, and we'll make White Russians and things like that. And as I was watching it last night, I was actually tidying up my house. It wasn't a sit down dedicated viewing. This was the first year I've done that. I was thinking a little bit about why I do it and why I still enjoy it so much. So on one level, there's just the fact that it is, it's just a great piece of art. And the funny in The Big Lebowski is baked in at such a deep level that even once you know all the jokes, and there's none of the laughter that comes with the surprise of a joke, there are many, many things that just hit you in this deep way that's more like drinking a delicious warm beverage or getting a massage, where you just go, oh yeah, that's good. And what I started thinking about, when something affects you in that way, you start to ask the question, how did this happen? How did this get made? How do you make something this great? And I think the answer is nobody knows. I don't think the Coen brothers or anybody could tell you how. I mean, and this is given that they obviously wrote a great screenplay, and they're incredibly, they're great at their craft. I mean, they've got, they're obviously the whole package. There are many wonderful actors. But what I'm getting at, that I think, we all know on some level, is that there are times when you do everything right, whether it's making a piece of art, or planning an event, or just or doing some aspect of your job, and you kind of put all the pieces together and you get something that's good, that's totally competent. And there are other times when everything just comes together, and everyone doesn't just bring their A game, but everyone creates something together that just goes beyond anything that could have been estimated from the individual parts. So I really like reminding myself of that on day one of the year, because I sit in here a lot working on other people's music, working on my own music, and I am always developing my craft, and I am always reaching for something, and sometimes feeling like I'm getting a piece of it or not getting a piece of it, just being in the creative process. And it's really good to know that level is out there, and that the only thing you can do is to keep doing what you do, to keep making stuff. because clearly there's some level of personal development, right? Of both becoming expert at your craft and also tuning in to that broadcast that all great art comes from, that some call the muse, that some call inspiration. But beyond that, you don't really know when it's going to come. You don't know how it's going to come. You just have to keep showing up and keep bringing your best self to the table, and maybe one day it'll happen. Right? Maybe it won't, but it's pretty cool to know that maybe it will. Because nobody's got a monopoly on that. And, even in the case of great artists and craftsmen like the Coen brothers, their track record is up and down. I mean, it's never that they become bad at making movies, but they certainly haven't made all good movies, right? So I'm going to go into this year with remembering not only that you never know that when it's going to come, but that also there have been, I've seen that in action at moments in my life, and not big things that everybody knows about, but things that I've done. I was recently telling someone a story of a show I did at Burning Man a whole bunch of years ago in the lounge at a camp called Soul System, where they were doing an experimental multi-channel audio setup where you could feed in 8 channels of audio, and then they were using custom spatialization software to move those channels throughout the space. Essentially, there were speakers in the round throughout the whole space, and I had decided that a cool thing to do for this would be to do a completely improvised ambient show with my computer, where I would essentially set up a bunch of channels, and I was just going to program a beat and record a part with a synthesizer and use my guitar to record some loops. And I had this idea, but it wasn't something that I had other opportunities in the prior year to do. And as the show approached, I believe I'd been very busy with some other things. I was sitting down to prepare for it. I mean, I think this was, I was on my way. I mean, it was probably only a day or two before. And I remember realizing that what I was trying to do from a standpoint of my rational mind of knowing exactly how it was going to work was completely impossible. That whatever idea I'd had about coming prepared and about really having it figured out was just not going to happen. I probably would have needed a year's worth of shows to experiment and to discover. So instead of beating my head against it, I had this moment where I realized, you know what? I think I'd actually be better off taking some of this time to meditate, and I would imagine probably to say a little prayer, say, okay, whatever the highest, most advanced aspect of my consciousness that understands what I'm trying to do here, I'm going to need that to take over here because I don't know what I'm doing. And I haven't always remembered to do that since then, but I will say that was a moment where, for me, and it was a real success, and I remember it going off really well and people really enjoying it, and it just being such a positive experience. So obviously that's a little bit of a tangent from The Big Lebowski, but it seems related here. So I'm going to be back here as many days as I can, talking about the creative process, talking about things that I think are interesting, talking a little bit about politics and culture and things that I think should be of interest to artists, to hopefully to everyone, and we'll see. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.